We can't keep them." Mark's voice was cold, final. Evelyn's hands trembled as she stared at the newborns. Tiny, innocent, unaware that their fate had already been decided. "But maybe love is enough," she whispered. Mark's eyes hardened. Love won't stop the world from questioning. And just like that, their children were cast away, forsaken at birth. What happens when the past catches up, when the abandoned refuse to be forgotten? Find out in Forsaken at Birth, a story of rejection, resilience, and the fight for identity. Part 1. Forsaken at Birth. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and new beginnings. Evelyn Carter lay on the bed, exhausted but eager. The birth had been long, painful, but now she was ready. She turned to her husband, Mark, and managed a weak smile. "This is it," she whispered. Mark nodded, gripping her hand. "We finally have our family." A moment later, the midwife placed 2 tiny, wriggling bodies into Evelyn's arms. But instead of joy, a strange chill ran through her veins. The baby's skin, dark as roasted cocoa beans, contrasted sharply with hers. Their soft curls clung to their foreheads, damp from birth. Their tiny fingers twitched, reaching for her warmth. But Evelyn didn't move. Mark's grip on her hand tightened. His expression darkened. What is this?" The midwife, unaware of the tension thickening the air, smiled. "Congratulations, 2 healthy twins, a boy and a girl." Evelyn's heart pounded. No, she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. This isn't right." Mark took a step forward, peering down at them, his jaw tightening. "There must be a mistake." The midwife's smile faded. "No mistake, sir. These are your children." Mark recoiled. "No, look at them. Look at us." His voice dropped into a deadly whisper. "They are not ours." The words felt like a slap. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. She turned to Mark, searching for comfort, but his blue eyes were filled with something she had never seen before. Disbelief, maybe even disgust. A doctor stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "Genetics is complex. Sometimes distant ancestry resurfaces in ways that surprise us." Evelyn clutched the blanket tightly, her mind racing. But how? How does something hidden for generations suddenly show up now? The doctor sighed. "That's the mystery of inheritance. You may carry genes from ancestors you've never met, from places you've never been." Mark's face twisted. "I don't believe that. This isn't science. This is humiliation." Evelyn's chest tightened. If our past shapes our future, then what happens when the past is a stranger? The midwife gently tried to place one of the babies back into Evelyn's arms. "Hold them," she said softly. "Feel them. They are yours." But Evelyn pulled back. She couldn't. She wouldn't. Mark exhaled sharply and turned away. "We can't keep them," he said coldly. Evelyn swallowed the lump in her throat. "Mark?" He turned, eyes burning. "Do you really want to live the rest of your life explaining this? Answering the questions? Facing the stares? Wondering what people are whispering behind your back?" Evelyn felt her world cracking. She had spent her whole life fitting into a mold, being the perfect daughter, the perfect wife. But now she was an anomaly. She hesitated, staring at the tiny faces that knew nothing of rejection. They only knew warmth, security, life. Her lips quivered. Maybe love is enough. Mark's voice turned to steel. "Love won't stop the world from questioning." A tear slipped down Evelyn's cheek. If love isn't enough to fight the world, then what is? She looked at the twins again. Their tiny hands had found each other, fingers curling together in a silent plea. A bond stronger than fear, stronger than shame. She inhaled sharply, then Slowly, painfully, she looked away, and she let go. That night, while the twins lay side by side in the hospital nursery, the nurses whispered. Some murmured about hidden bloodlines. Others shook their heads at the cruelty of the world. But none of them had the power to change what had been done. The twins were alone, abandoned, forsaken at birth. Part 2. The Unwanted Ones. The hospital nursery was quiet except for the occasional wail of a newborn. In the farthest crib, 2 tiny figures lay curled together, their fingers entwined as if they knew they were all they had in the world. Nurse Amaka stood over them, her heart heavy. She had seen abandoned babies before, orphans of war, poverty, and sickness. But these 2, they were different. These children were left behind not because their parents were too poor to care for them, she murmured to her colleague, Nurse Kemi. Not because they were sick or unwanted. Kemi sighed, adjusting the blanket around the baby boy. They were abandoned because of the color of their skin. Amaka clenched her jaw. If a child's worth is judged by the way they look, then what does that say about the world we live in? Kemi looked down at the babies, then back at Amaka. It says we still have a long way to go. A heavy silence stretched between them. We need to find them a home, Amaka whispered. Kemi nodded. But who will take them? That was the question. The couple who listened to their hearts. 2 days later, in a quiet neighborhood just outside the city, Kioma sat in her small living room, sipping tea. The warm aroma of ginger and honey filled the air, but she barely noticed. Her eyes were fixed on the newspaper in front of her. The headline caught her breath. Twins abandoned in hospital. Parents refused to take them home. Her stomach tightened as she read the article. 2 newborns, healthy, rejected simply because they did not look like the people who brought them into the world. Jide, her husband, walked in, yawning. What are you reading? She handed him the newspaper without a word. Jide's eyes moved over the text, his expression shifting from curiosity to something darker. When he set the paper down, his voice was low. People can be cruel. Kioma's voice was barely above a whisper. What kind of world do we live in where love is conditional, where a child can be unwanted simply because of their skin? Jide exhaled. A world where appearance matters more than the heart. Kioma set her teacup down with a sharp clink. That's not the kind of world I want to be part of. Jide frowned. What are you saying? She hesitated, searching for the right words. What if we took them? His eyebrows shot up. Kioma, I'm serious, she said, leaning forward. Those babies don't deserve to be punished for someone else's ignorance. Jide rubbed his forehead. You know what this will mean. People will talk. They'll ask questions. Are we ready for that? Kioma's lips trembled slightly, but she held his gaze. And if we let those questions stop us, doesn't that make us just like the people who abandoned them? Jide looked away, his jaw tightening. Kioma, we don't know what their future will be like. She studied him carefully. Then tell me, what's worse, facing a future of uncertainty or never being given a future at all? The room was silent except for the distant hum of a passing car. Jide exhaled, slow and deep. Do you really want to do this? Kioma nodded. More than anything. He studied her face for a long moment, then reached for her hand. Then we do it. Her eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? Jide gave her a small, steady smile. If love is real, then it must be bigger than fear. That night, as the city lights flickered in the distance, 2 abandoned souls unknowingly found a home. But love alone wouldn't be enough. because the world wasn't ready for them. If a child's worth is judged by their appearance, then what does that say about the people who make such judgments? What kind of world do we live in where love is conditional? If we let fear of judgment stop us from doing what is right, are we any better than those who do wrong? What's worse, facing a future of uncertainty or never being given a future at all? If love is real, then shouldn't it be bigger than fear? Part 3. A Home of Questions. The small house in Enugu buzzed with life, filled with the scent of freshly cooked jollof rice and the distant chatter of neighborhood children playing outside. But inside, there was an unfamiliar silence. Kioma and Jide sat on their living room couch, each cradling a tiny bundle. The twins, just a few days old, lay wrapped in soft blankets, their tiny hands twitching in their sleep. Kioma ran a gentle finger over the girl's tiny cheek. "What should we call them?" Jide exhaled. "Names have meaning. They should have names that remind them they belong." Kioma smiled, gazing down at the boy. "Then this one, he will be Chimdi." She turned to the girl. "And she will be Adaora." Jide nodded, though something weighed on his mind. He stared at the children for a long time before finally asking, "Do we tell them?" Kioma's fingers stiffened around the blanket. Jide continued, "One day they'll ask why their parents don't look like them. They'll want answers. What do we say?" Kioma swallowed hard. "Do we define family by the blood in our veins or by the love in our hearts?" Jide let out a slow breath. "Maybe both." They sat in silence watching the twins. Finally, Kioma whispered, "When the time comes, we'll tell them. But for now, let them just be children, whispers and shadows." At first, things were peaceful. Neighbors came by bringing food and clothes for the twins. Women from the market smiled at Kioma, calling her Mama Ejima, mother of twins. For a while, it felt like everything was exactly as it should be, until the whispers began. One evening, as Kioma carried Adaora through the market, an older woman selling plantains squinted at her. "This one, she is yours." Kioma smiled, adjusting Adaora on her hip. "Yes, Mama." The woman's eyes darkened. She leaned forward, voice dropping into a whisper. "Then why does she not carry your color?" Kioma's heart pounded. Another woman, eavesdropping, chuckled. "Maybe she carried them for another woman. You know these modern ways." Laughter rippled through the market. Kioma forced a smile, tightening her grip on Adaora. As she walked away, her thoughts swirled. Why do people fear what they don't understand? That night, she told Jide what happened. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "We knew this would happen," she exhaled. "How long before the children start hearing it too?" Jide looked toward the bedroom, where the twins slept peacefully, unaware of the questions hanging over their heads. "Let them sleep while they can," he murmured. "One day, the world will wake them up." A child's first questions. The twins grew. By the time Chimdi and Adaora were 5, they were lively, curious children who filled the house with laughter. They loved running barefoot in the yard, splashing water on each other during bath time, and falling asleep to Kioma's bedtime stories. But one afternoon, everything changed. Kioma was combing Adaora's thick curls when the little girl looked up suddenly and asked, "Mama, why is my skin different?" Kioma's hands froze. Beside her, Chimdi turned from his toy truck. "Yes, Mama. In school today, a boy said we don't look like you. He said maybe we were born from the sky and dropped into your lap." Kioma's chest tightened. "And what did you say?" Adaora shrugged. "I said, Mama loves us, so it doesn't matter." Kioma blinked rapidly, her heart swelling with pride, but the question still hung in the air. She set down the comb, pulling both children close. "Tell me," she said gently, "if a tree is planted in a new land, does it still grow?" The twins exchanged glances before nodding. She smiled. "And does the land love the tree any less because it did not start there?" Chimdi furrowed his brows. "No." Chioma kissed their foreheads. "That is how love works. It is not about where you start. It is about where you are nurtured." Adaora's face lit up with understanding. "So you and Papa are our roots?" Chioma's throat tightened. She hugged them closer. "Yes, my loves, we are your roots." For now, it was enough. But the world had more questions waiting. Do we define family by the blood in our veins or by the love in our hearts? Why do people fear what they don't understand? If a tree is planted in a new land, does it still grow? Does the land love the tree any less because it did not start there? Part 4. The World's Questions. The sun hung low over the red earth of Enugu as the twins ran through the schoolyard, their laughter blending with the chatter of other children. Chimdi was chasing Adaora, their feet kicking up small clouds of dust. For a while, they were just like any other children, until they weren't. A boy, older by a few years, stepped in front of them. His arms crossed over his chest, and a smirk tugged at his lips. "You two don't look like your parents." Adaora's smile faded. "Yes, we do," she said firmly. The boy chuckled. "No, you don't. Your mama and papa are brown like roasted groundnuts. You two, you are black like burnt akara." Laughter rippled through the group of children around them. Chimdi's hands balled into fists. "What does it matter?" Adaora shot back. "They love us." The boy shrugged. "But where did you come from?" His eyes narrowed. "Are you sure they didn't steal you?" Chimdi grabbed Adaora's hand and pulled her away. But the boy's words followed them, sticking to their skin like the heat of the afternoon sun. The questions they couldn't escape. That night, as they sat on the floor of the living room, Adaora couldn't stay silent any longer. "Mama," she said softly, "why don't we look like you?" Chioma's hand stilled over the yam she was peeling. Jide looked up from his newspaper. Chimdi's voice was quieter. "Did you steal us?" Chioma dropped the knife. She turned to them, her heart aching. "Who told you that?" Adaora and Chimdi exchanged glances before Adaora muttered, "Some boys at school." Jide let out a slow breath. "Come here," he said, his voice steady. The twins shuffled over, and he pulled them into his lap. "Let me ask you something," he said. "If a chick hatches under a different hen, does that hen love it any less?" The twins shook their heads. Jide nodded. "Exactly. Family is not about looking the same. It is about who protects you, who loves you, and who stands by you." Chioma placed a hand on Adaora's cheek. "You are ours, in every way that matters." Adaora bit her lip. "But who were our first parents?" Chioma and Jide exchanged a glance. The time they had feared had come sooner than expected. Chioma took a deep breath. "Your first parents, they were afraid. And sometimes when people are afraid, they make choices that hurt others." Chimdi frowned. "But why were they afraid?" Jide's voice was gentle but firm. "Because people in this world don't always understand that love is greater than appearances. They worried about what others would say instead of what their hearts felt." Adaora's small hands curled into fists. "That's not fair." Chioma pulled her close. "No, it's not. But you must decide. Will you let their fear define you? Or will you define yourself?" Silence hung in the room. Finally, Chimdi whispered, "We choose ourselves." Chioma smiled. Then you are free, finding strength in truth. But knowing the truth did not erase the questions. The whispers followed them, the stares lingered, and as they grew older, Adaora and Chimdi felt the weight of the world pressing down on them. By the time they were teenagers, the questions had evolved. Where are you really from? Do you ever want to meet your real parents? Do you ever wonder if they regret leaving you? The words dug into their skin like thorns. Adaora buried herself in books, searching for answers in stories of lost children and found families. Chimdi turned inward, his thoughts heavy with unspoken doubts. One night, as they sat on the rooftop, staring at the moon, Chimdi finally spoke. Do you ever think about them? Adaora didn't have to ask who he meant. Yes, she admitted. Do you? Chimdi sighed. I don't know if I want to see them, but I want to know why. Adaora hugged her knees to her chest. Do you think they ever think about us? Chimdi's voice was quiet. If they do you think they regret it? Adaora let out a shaky breath. Maybe the real question is, do we care? They sat in silence, the night wrapping around them like a blanket. The past was calling, and soon they would have to answer. If a chick hatches under a different hen, does that hen love it any less? Will you let someone else's fear define you, or will you define yourself? Does knowing the truth erase the pain of it? If the people who abandoned you regret it, does it change what they did? Part 5. Facing the Past. The dusty Harmattan wind whistled through the streets of Enugu as Adaora and Chimdi sat at the edge of their school compound, watching the sun sink behind the hills. Do you think they're still alive? Chimdi asked suddenly. Adaora didn't answer right away. She picked at the hem of her school uniform, lost in thought. I don't know. But don't you wonder? Chimdi pressed. Of course she did. She had spent nights lying awake, imagining different versions of their parents, regretful, indifferent, desperate to find them. Chimdi exhaled. I think we should look for them. Adaora's heart pounded. She turned to him, startled. Why? Chimdi's gaze was steady. Because knowing the truth is better than living with questions. Adaora hesitated. What if the truth hurts? Chimdi shrugged. What if it sets us free? A journey into uncertainty. That night, after their parents had gone to bed, Adaora and Chimdi sat cross-legged on the floor of their bedroom, their phone screen glowing between them. Chimdi had searched the hospital records, and after hours of scrolling, he finally found it. A name. Evelyn and Mark Carter, their birth parents. Adaora inhaled sharply. They're still in Nigeria. Chimdi's grip on the phone tightened. Then we have to find them. A question lingered between them, unspoken but heavy. If the past knocks on your door, do you open it? The confrontation. 2 weeks later, they stood in front of a large colonial-style house in Abuja. The journey here had been long, both physically and emotionally. Adaora's palms were sweaty. Are we sure about this? Chimdi swallowed. No, but he knocked anyway. A few moments later, the door creaked open, revealing a woman with streaks of gray in her auburn hair. Her blue eyes flickered over them, her expression unreadable. For a moment, there was nothing. No recognition, no gasp of surprise, just silence. Then Evelyn's lips parted slightly. It's you. The words were barely above a whisper, but they carried the weight of 18 years. Chimdi's chest tightened. You remember us? Evelyn blinked rapidly. Of course I do. Adaora stepped forward. Why did you leave us? Evelyn inhaled sharply, gripping the doorframe. Before she could answer, another voice echoed from inside the house. What's going on? appeared behind her. His face was thinner than in the old photos they had seen, but his eyes were the same, cold, calculating. Mark Carter. His gaze swept over them, his expression unreadable. "Who are they?" Evelyn flinched. Chimdy's breath caught. "You don't even recognize us." Mark's brows furrowed. Then realization dawned. His entire body stiffened. "No." Adaora's heart clenched. "We are your children." Mark's jaw tightened. "No, you stopped being ours the day we left you." The words hit harder than any slap. Evelyn turned to him. "Mark." He ignored her, his gaze fixed on Chimdy and Adaora. "Why are you here?" Chimdy's voice was quiet but steady. "We wanted answers." Mark scoffed. "Answers? What do you want me to say? That we regretted it? That we missed you?" His lips curled bitterly. "That would be a lie." Adaora's breath hitched. Chimdy's fists clenched. "You abandoned us." Mark's face hardened. "Yes." Evelyn let out a shaky breath. "Mark, stop." But he didn't. He stared at them, his voice like ice. "We had no choice." Adaora's eyes burned. "You did." Mark's jaw twitched. "No, we didn't. We would have lost everything. Our family, our place in society. Keeping you would have ruined us." Chimdy let out a bitter laugh. "And leaving us ruined nothing?" Mark didn't answer. Evelyn wiped at her eyes. "I think about you every day." Chimdy turned to her, his voice raw. "Then why did you never come looking for us?" Evelyn's lips trembled. "Because I was afraid." Adaora swallowed. "Of what?" Evelyn's voice broke. "That you wouldn't forgive me." Silence. Chimdy's chest ached. Is forgiveness something that is earned, or something that is given freely? Mark exhaled sharply. "You got your answers. Now leave." Adaora's hands trembled. "You never wanted us." Mark's gaze didn't waver. "No." Chimdy felt something inside him break. But as he turned to leave, Adaora grabbed his hand. She met their mother's tearful gaze one last time and asked, "Do you regret it?" Evelyn opened her mouth, but no words came. And in that silence, they had their answer. They walked away. If the past knocks on your door, do you open it? Do people abandon others because they are afraid or because they are selfish? Is forgiveness something that is earned or something that is given freely? If someone regrets their actions but does nothing to fix them, does their regret matter? Part 6. The Price of Truth. The bus rattled over potholes as Chimdy stared out the window, his fingers gripping the edge of his seat. The world outside moved on as if nothing had happened, as if his whole life hadn't just been shattered and rebuilt in a matter of minutes. Adaora sat beside him, silent. Too silent. Her hands were balled into fists, her nails digging into her palms, but she didn't seem to notice. Then, without warning, she slammed her fist against the window. Chimdy flinched. "Adaora!" "No," she snapped. "No, you don't get to act calm. Not after that." Chimdy exhaled, forcing himself to stay steady. "What do you want me to do?" "I don't know," she shouted, turning to him with wild eyes. "Scream! Break something! Do anything other than sit there like a damn statue." Chimdy clenched his jaw. He wanted to scream. He wanted to tear the whole world apart. But what would that change? Adaora buried her face in her hands. "We were nothing to them, Chimdy. Nothing." Chimdy's fingers twitched. "Then maybe it's time we make ourselves something." She looked up at him, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "How?" Chimdy stared straight ahead. "By never being like them." A home, a war zone. Kioma and Jide were waiting at the front door when they arrived. The second Adaora stepped out of the bus, Kioma rushed forward, her wrapper billowing in the evening breeze. She grabbed Adaora, pulling her close. "My daughter." she whispered fiercely. My Adaora. Jeed wrapped Chimdi in a tight hug, his grip firm, steady, unshakable. For the first time that day, Chimdi let himself breathe, but peace didn't last. That night, as they sat in the living room, the questions came. What did they say? Kioma's voice was gentle, but her hands trembled as she smoothed the fabric of her skirt. Adaora scoffed. They told us we stopped being theirs the day they left us. Jide's jaw tightened. Kioma's face darkened with something that looked like both pain and rage. They told you that? Chimdi gave a humorless chuckle. Oh, that's not even the best part. They said keeping us would have ruined them. A loud clatter echoed through the room. Everyone turned. Chioma had dropped the wooden spoon she'd been holding. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. They said that? She repeated, her voice dangerously low. Adaora nodded stiffly. Chioma let out a slow, shuddering breath. Then, in a calm voice that sent chills down their spines, she said, You listen to me, both of you. You will never, ever let those words settle inside you. Do you hear me? Adaora swallowed hard. Mama. No. Kioma's voice shook with emotion. You are mine, my children, and anyone who says otherwise is a fool who doesn't understand what family means. Jide exhaled, rubbing his forehead. I always knew the day would come when you'd want answers, he murmured. But I never thought they'd be this cold. Kioma shook her head, fury in her eyes. No, Jide. Cold is when you leave food out overnight and it loses warmth. These people... She spat the word like venom. They are not cold. They are empty. Silence filled the room. Then Kioma turned to them with fire in her eyes. Tell me, does the past define you, or do you define yourself? Adaora straightened. We define ourselves. Kioma's lips twitched. Good. Jide crossed his arms. So what happens now? Chimdi exchanged a glance with Adaora. He felt something shift inside him, something heavy, something final. He stood. Now we win. Adaora smirked. Now we make sure they regret ever letting us go. The unseen hands of fate. The next morning, Adaora's phone buzzed. A message. No name, no number, just 7 words. The truth didn't die. It's coming back. She frowned. Chimdi, look at this. Chimdi read the message, his face unreadable. Who sent this? I don't know. A second later, another message appeared. Not everything is what it seems. Chimdi's stomach twisted. Then their home phone rang. Jide picked up, his voice steady. Hello? Silence, then a voice, distorted, mechanical. If they keep searching, they won't find the truth. They'll find death. Jide's face turned pale. Who is this? Click. The line went dead. Kioma grabbed the phone from his hands. Jide, what's going on? Jide looked at his children. I don't think this is just about your parents anymore. Chimdi's heart pounded. Then what is it about? Jide exhaled. Something much, much bigger. That night, unable to sleep, Adaora sat on her bed scrolling through articles about abandoned children in Nigeria. Then, something caught her eye. An article. A case. From 18 years ago. 2 abandoned babies. But the hospital records were altered. Their parents weren't listed as Evelyn and Mark Carter. The names were unknown. Adaora's breath hitched. What? She quickly checked the hospital's archives. No records of a Carter family ever giving birth to twins. Her hands shook. Then, another article. A missing twin case. The headline read, Stolen at birth. Twins vanish without a trace. Her stomach dropped. We weren't abandoned. We were taken. Adaora ran into Chimdi's room, breathless. Chimdi, I think we've been lied to our whole lives. Chimdi sat up. What are you talking about? She showed him the screen. His blood ran cold. Everything they thought they knew about themselves was a lie, and someone out there didn't want them to find the truth. Stolen lives, stolen fates. Chimdy's hands clenched around the phone as he reread the article. His breath came shallow, his pulse hammering in his ears. "This has to be a mistake," he muttered. "There's no way." Adaora's voice was barely a whisper. "Chimdy, if we weren't abandoned, if we were stolen, then who are we?" The weight of those words settled between them, heavy and suffocating. Chimdy shot to his feet. "We need answers, real answers, and we're not going to find them by sitting here." Adaora hesitated. "But where do we even start?" Chimdy's jaw tightened. "The hospital, the records. Someone had to erase them, and I want to know why." The next day, they made their way to the old hospital where they were supposedly born. The building stood like a forgotten relic, its once white walls stained with age, the signboard hanging loosely by rusted bolts. As they entered, a wave of unease settled over them. Hospitals were places of healing, but this one felt like a graveyard of secrets. Adaora approached the receptionist, forcing a smile. "Hi, we're looking for birth records from 18 years ago. We were born here, and we'd like to access our files." The woman frowned. 18 years ago? That's a long time. Most records from that period were digitized, but some were lost in a fire a few years back. Chimdy exchanged a look with Adaora. "A fire?" The receptionist nodded. "Strange one too. Only affected the storage room with older files. Nothing else was touched. A deliberate fire. Someone had been covering their tracks." Adaora leaned forward. "Is there anyone still working here from that time? A doctor? A nurse?" The woman tapped her fingers on the desk, thinking. "Well, there is one. Nurse Amaka. She's been here forever. You might find her in the maternity ward." Nurse Amaka was old, her face lined with years of exhaustion and wisdom. When she saw them, something in her expression shifted. Recognition, but not surprise. "I knew you'd come one day," she said softly. Adaora's stomach dropped. "You know who we are?" The nurse nodded. "You weren't abandoned. You weren't even supposed to exist." Chimdy's fists clenched. "What does that mean?" Nurse Amaka glanced around nervously before whispering. "There were two couples that night. One was the Carters, but the other, they were powerful, dangerous, and they weren't supposed to lose their children." Adaora's hands shook. "Are you saying we were switched at birth?" The nurse's face darkened. "No, I'm saying you were taken from the wrong people." Chimdy's breath hitched. "Who were they?" She hesitated. Then, in a barely audible whisper, she said, "The UNTHINKABLE family." The air seemed to vanish from the room. Adaora's knees weakened. "That can't be," because the UNTHINKABLE family wasn't just rich. They weren't just powerful. They were royalty. They ruled from the shadows, and they never forgave a betrayal. Chimdy's voice was barely steady. "Why would someone take us from them?" The nurse swallowed hard. "Because someone wanted them to suffer, and they will, if they find out you're alive." Silence hung thick in the air. Then Adaora whispered the question neither of them wanted to ask. "Do they know?" Nurse Amaka's face paled. "They do now." That night, as they sat in their room trying to process the truth, a car slowed down outside their house. The headlights dimmed. A figure stepped out, dressed in black, his face hidden under a hood. Adaora's phone buzzed. A new message. No name, no number, just 5 words. Run. They know you're alive." Chimdi looked up, his face draining of color. "Adaora." The lights in their house flickered, the front door handle twisted. And then, bang. The first gunshot shattered the silence. Forsaken at Birth, Part 7. Bloodlines and Buried Truths. A night of death and secrets. Bang. The first gunshot shattered the silence. The second one hit the window, splintering glass across the floor. Adaora barely had time to scream before Chimdi grabbed her wrist, yanking her toward the back door. "Move!" he shouted. Their home, the only place that had ever felt safe, was no longer theirs. Footsteps, heavy, rushed. Someone was inside. Keoma and Jide, their parents, their real parents, the ones who had raised them, were still in their room. "Mama, Papa," Adaora screamed, running toward the hallway. Then a voice, cold, sharp, and absolute. "If you want to live, you leave them." Adaora froze. The words wrapped around her throat like a noose. A man stood in the doorway, dressed in black, face covered, a gun in his hand. Chimdi stepped in front of her. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer. He simply raised the gun and pulled the trigger. Bang! Chimdi's body jerked back. A sharp gasp tore from his lips. Adaora's world shattered. "No!" Chimdi clutched his side, his knees buckling as blood stained his shirt. Adaora caught him before he hit the floor. The gunman stepped closer. "You were never supposed to exist." His gun aimed at her now, but before he could fire, a knife flew through the air. It buried itself into his throat. The gunman let out a choking sound, dropping to his knees, eyes wide in shock. Blood gushed from his mouth. Behind him, Jide stood, his chest heaving, his hand still outstretched from throwing the knife. The man collapsed, dead. Silence. Then Jide turned to them. "We have to leave, now." The escape into darkness. They fled into the night. Keoma, her wrapper soaked in Chimdi's blood, pressed a trembling hand to his wound. "Hold on, my son. Just hold on." They ran, hearts pounding, lungs burning, until they reached the car. Jide threw open the driver's door, his hands shaking as he started the engine. "We have minutes before more come." Adaora pressed Chimdi against her, tears streaming down her face. "Stay awake, you hear me? You stay awake." Chimdi coughed, his voice weak. This is because of who we are." Keoma's face twisted in agony. "It doesn't matter who you were born to. You are ours, and we will protect you." But deep down, they all knew this was only the beginning. As the car sped down the road, disappearing into the shadows, Adaora looked back at the burning house. Everything they had ever known was gone, because of a secret buried in their blood, and someone out there wanted them erased. The betrayal they never saw coming. Hours passed. The road stretched endlessly before them. Keoma kept her hands on Chimdi's wound, whispering prayers, begging God not to take her son. Jide's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. Adaora sat frozen, staring at the blood on her hands. Her brother's blood. They had nowhere to go, no home, no safety. Then Jide's phone rang, an unknown number. He hesitated before answering. "Who is this?" A woman's voice, calm, cold, familiar. "Jide, you can't run from this." Keoma's breath caught. Adaora's stomach twisted, because they knew that voice. It was Evelyn Carter, their birth mother, the woman who had forsaken them at birth. Jide's voice was low, controlled. "How did you get this number?" Evelyn exhaled. "You don't understand what you're involved in." Adaora snatched the phone. "No, you don't understand. Someone just tried to kill us, and you're calling us now? What do you want?" Silence. Then Evelyn whispered, "I never wanted this for you." Adaora's throat tightened. Wanted what? Evelyn's voice shook. You were supposed to be dead. The car swerved. Jide barely kept control of the wheel. Kioma covered her mouth, stifling a sob. Chimdi, weak, bleeding, whispered. She knew. Adaora's hands shook with rage. You knew we were in danger, and you did nothing? Evelyn's breath was uneven. I thought letting you go would keep you safe. But I was wrong. The UNTHINKABLE family, if they know you're alive, they won't stop until they finish what they started. Jide's voice was a growl. Then tell us the truth. Everything. Now. Evelyn inhaled sharply. You were never meant to be with the Carters. You were meant to be kings. Adaora's heart stopped. You are the last heirs of the UNTHINKABLE bloodline. And now, the people who stole you are trying to erase you forever. Chimdi's breath came out in a rasp. Then why did you abandon us? A pause. Then Evelyn whispered the words that shattered everything they thought they knew. Because I wasn't your mother. I was just the woman paid to get rid of you. Silence. The road stretched before them. The past was gone, and the war for their future had just begun. Forsaken at Birth, Part 8. The War in Their Blood. A game of deception. The night stretched endlessly as Jide drove, the car speeding toward an uncertain future. Chimdi lay unconscious in Adaora's lap, his skin cold, his breathing shallow. Blood still seeped through Kioma's trembling fingers as she pressed against his wound, whispering prayers through her sobs. Jide's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. His voice was tight. We need a hospital. Adaora wiped the sweat from Chimdi's forehead, her heart pounding. No. If the UNTHINKABLE family is really after us, the hospital is the first place they'll look. Kioma bit her lips so hard it bled. Then where do we go? Silence. Jide exhaled sharply, turning the car down a narrow dirt road. I know someone, but the audience already knows. Someone is waiting for them, someone who already knows their every move. In a dimly lit control room, several figures watched their every move through satellite surveillance. The car, the dirt road. A voice crackled through a speaker. Cold, calculated. They're heading toward the contact. A woman stepped forward, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Evelyn Carter. Her gaze was locked on the screen, watching the children she had once left behind. A man beside her, the true head of the UNTHINKABLE family, sighed. They think they have a choice. Evelyn's jaw tightened. We should have killed them the moment we found out they were alive. The man smirked. We still can. He turned to another figure in the shadows. Make sure their safe place isn't so safe after all. A second later, the line went dead. The trap was already set, and Jide was driving them straight into it. The safe house, or a grave. An hour later, Jide pulled up to a small, isolated house in the countryside. Dim lights flickered from inside. A lone figure stood on the porch, waiting. Chimdi stirred slightly in Adaora's lap, moaning in pain. Jide turned to his wife. This man saved my life once. We can trust him. But the audience knows the truth. The man inside was already bought. The second they stepped through that door, they wouldn't be leaving. Jide helped Kioma carry Chimdi inside while Adaora hesitated on the porch, scanning the darkness. Something didn't feel right. The man, tall, bald, his face worn with age, nodded toward her. You're Adaora, aren't you? Adaora's chest tightened. How do you know my name? The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. because your real family has been looking for you for a very long time." Before she could react, a sharp pain exploded in her neck. Her vision blurred, the world tilted, and then darkness. Meanwhile, inside, Jide carefully lowered Chimdi onto a mattress. Kioma turned to the man, her voice urgent. "Please, we need medical supplies. He's lost too much blood." The man nodded, stepping into the next room. Jide exhaled, running a hand over his face. "I don't know how much longer we can keep running." Then, click, a gun cocked. Jide froze. Slowly he turned. The man was standing there, gun aimed at Kioma. Her hands trembled as she stepped back. "What? What are you doing?" The man sighed. "I really did save Jide's life once. But you see, the UNTHINKABLEs, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse." Kioma's knees buckled. "You sold us out?" "Nothing personal." Jide's eyes burned. "Then at least let my wife go." The man laughed. "Oh, Jide, they don't want you. They don't want your wife." His eyes flickered to the unconscious Chimdi. "They only want him." Jide moved before he could think. The gun fired. A deafening crack tore through the room. Kioma screamed. Jide stumbled back, clutching his chest. Blood seeped through his fingers. Kioma caught him as he fell. "Jide!" But he was already gone. The man turned to her, gun still raised. "Now be a good woman. Step aside." Kioma's tears blurred her vision. Jide was dead. Adaora was missing. Chimdi was helpless, and the UNTHINKABLE family had won, or so they thought. Forsaken at Birth, Part 9, Blood in the Shadows. A night of losses. Jide's body lay still, his blood pooling beneath him, soaking into the cracks of the wooden floor. Kioma knelt over him, her hands trembling as she touched his face. "Jide, please." No response. His eyes, once full of fire, stared blankly at the ceiling. Her husband was gone. Her heart shattered, but she had no time to grieve. A gun pressed against her forehead. The man smirked. "I said step aside." Kioma's chest heaved. Her mind raced. If she moved, Chimdi was lost. If she didn't, she was dead. Her eyes flickered toward the broken glass on the floor. The man sighed. Why do they always make this difficult? He pulled the trigger. Click. No bullet. The safety. He hadn't released the safety. It was the smallest window of opportunity. Kioma didn't hesitate. With all her strength, she grabbed the jagged piece of glass and slashed it across his throat. A wet, gurgling sound filled the room as he staggered back, clutching at the deep wound. His gun clattered to the ground. Kioma picked it up, breathing hard. The man fell, twitching. She didn't wait to see if he would get back up. Her hands shook as she turned to Chimdi. She had to get her son out of here, but before she could move, bang! A shot rang from outside. Kioma's heart stopped. Adaora. The capture, darkness. A rough hand gripped the back of Adaora's neck, dragging her through the dirt. Her vision swam, her limbs weak from whatever had been injected into her. She tried to fight, but her body wouldn't respond. She was thrown into the back of a black SUV, the door slamming shut behind her. A voice, smooth, sharp, venomous. I expected you to be smarter than this. Adaora forced her eyes open. The woman sitting across from her was dressed in all black, legs crossed, expression unreadable. Evelyn Carter. Adaora's throat burned with rage. You sold us. Evelyn tilted her head. I tried to protect you, but you had to keep digging. Adaora lunged, but her body collapsed under its own weight. Evelyn sighed. Still fighting. Good. You'll need that. Adaora clenched her jaw. What do you want? Evelyn leaned in, her voice a whisper. It's not about what I want. It's about what they want. The doors unlocked. 2 men stepped in, tall, cold, dressed in dark suits. One of them pulled out a syringe. Adaora thrashed weakly. "No, no!" The needle pierced her skin. Her vision blurred. Evelyn's voice faded into the distance. "It's time to meet your real family." Then, blackness. The House of Kings. Adaora woke to the scent of burning incense and the distant sound of chanting. Her body ached. Her wrists were bound. She was in a massive room, the walls lined with portraits. Ancient, regal. Her eyes landed on a massive painting at the center. A man in royal robes, his face her own. Her breath caught. The doors creaked open. Footsteps, slow, measured. A man stepped forward, dressed in white, his presence suffocating the air. Deep scars ran down his arms. His eyes were sharp, piercing. He studied her, silent. Then he spoke. "My daughter, you have finally come home." Adaora's blood ran cold. Meanwhile, Chioma dragged Chimdi through the forest, his body heavy against her. The safe house was compromised. She couldn't go back. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she fought through the branches. Then she heard it, the sound of approaching footsteps. She pressed herself against a tree, holding her breath. 4 men, searching, armed. One of them spoke into a radio. "The girl is secured. The boy is priority." Chioma tightened her grip on the stolen gun. They weren't going to take her son, not while she was still breathing. The sacrifice. The men drew closer. Chioma had 1 bullet, 1 chance. She steadied her breathing. The leader stepped forward, his gun raised. Chioma exhaled. Then she stepped into the open. Bang! Her shot was clean. The leader dropped, blood spraying across the leaves. The others turned. Bang! A second shot. Chioma's body jerked back. Pain exploded through her chest. She fell to her knees, gasping. Chimdi, barely conscious, watched in horror. His mother, falling. Her trembling fingers reached for him, her lips forming silent words. Then, stillness. Chioma was gone. Chimdi's vision blurred. "No, no, no, no. Mama!" A gun pressed to his head. "Move, and you die next." He didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't feel, because his mother was dead, and he was alone. Everything is falling apart. Adaora is in the hands of the Odinigbo family. Jide is dead. Chioma is dead. Chimdi is captured. Evelyn's true motives are unknown, but the storm is far from over, because the blood of kings does not die quietly, and the war has only just begun. Forsaken at Birth, Part 10. The Blood War begins. The Crown of Betrayal. Adaora's heartbeat thundered in her ears. The man standing before her, the one who had called her daughter, watched her with unsettling calm. She forced herself to speak. "I don't know you." His lips curled into a small smile. "But I know you, Adaora. I've known you since the day you were taken from us." A shiver ran down her spine. Taken, not abandoned, not lost. She was never meant to be with the Carters, never meant to be in the hands of strangers. She was theirs. Adaora's hands clenched into fists. "Where is my brother?" The man, Oba Ifediora Odenigbo, king of the forgotten bloodline, tilted his head. "Alive, for now." Her breath hitched. "If you hurt him, his life depends on you." He stepped closer. His presence was suffocating. "You were born to rule, Adaora, to take back what was stolen from us." Adaora's stomach twisted. "I don't want it." The king smiled. "Then you don't understand yet." He snapped his fingers. The doors opened. 2 guards stepped forward, dragging someone behind them. Adaora's blood ran cold. Chimdi. His face was battered, his lips split, his hands bound behind his back. He was barely conscious. Adaora surged forward. "Chimdi!" A guard slammed her back against the cold marble floor. Oba Ifediora's voice was like steel. "You will listen." Adaora's breath came in ragged gasps. "Please, he's done nothing to you." The king's eyes darkened. "You still don't see it, do you?" He leaned down, his next words making her blood freeze. Chimdi was never supposed to be alive. A brother's blood. Adaora's entire body tensed. "What are you talking about?" The king exhaled, as if tired of explaining something so obvious. "You are the rightful heir, Adaora, but your brother, he was always a mistake." Adaora shook her head. "No, you're lying." The king chuckled. "I have no reason to lie to you. The UNTHINKABLE bloodline only passes through one child, a single heir. When twins are born, only one is allowed to survive." Adaora's stomach twisted. No, that can't be." Oba Ifediora stepped aside, revealing a large portrait behind him, an ancient painting, a woman holding a single child. Adaora's hands trembled as she stared at the plaque beneath it. "The firstborn lives, the other is forgotten." Her chest heaved. "You kill your own children?" The king met her gaze. "We ensure the survival of the strongest." He gestured toward Chimdi. "Your brother should have been dead 18 years ago, but someone interfered." Adaora felt sick. "Evelyn," the king nodded. "She was paid to take you away, but she took him too, against orders." Adaora's vision blurred with rage. "You wanted him dead." Oba Ifediora's face was unreadable. "The only way to right this mistake is to finish what was started." He stepped closer. "You have a choice, Adaora." Her hands trembled. "What choice?" The king's next words shattered everything. "Prove yourself worthy of your throne." His voice was cold, commanding, "Kill your brother." Adaora's breath caught in her throat. "No." Oba Ifediora's eyes narrowed. "Then he dies anyway." Chimdi coughed weakly. "Ada, don't..." The guards lifted him to his knees. A gun was placed in her hand. Adaora's fingers curled around it, shaking. "You can't make me do this." The king's expression didn't change. "Either you prove your loyalty, or we take him from you." A guard pressed a knife against Chimdi's throat. "Decide, Adaora." Her chest tightened. The air felt too thin. Her vision swam. Chimdi's eyes met hers, full of pain. "I'm not afraid." Tears burned down her face. "Don't say that." His lips trembled. "You're my sister, no matter what happens." Adaora's entire world crumbled. 10 seconds. The king's voice was quiet. Adaora tightened her grip on the gun. Her heart slammed against her ribs. 9. Her breathing turned shallow. 8. Chimdi's hands were tied. He couldn't even fight. 7. The guards braced, ready to strike if she refused. 6. Chimdi whispered, "I love you, Ada." 5. Adaora let out a broken sob. 4. Her finger trembled over the trigger. 3. Chimdi closed his eyes. 2. Adaora screamed. 1. The shot rang out. To be continued? Everything is at its breaking point. Did she pull the trigger? Or did she turn the gun on someone else? If she didn't, is Chimdi still alive? If she did, can she ever come back from it? The UNTHINKABLE family has forced her into an impossible decision. Either way, she will never be the same again.